time for the 49ers Rush Podcast.
The 49ers roster countdown continues with a fan favorite, one of the best humans that has been through a lot on this team, and just such a cool story, such a great man, Azeez Al Shaair. He is unbelievable. Number 22 on this list of most important 49ers for this season. And what we're going to do is we're going to detail his journey, which is incredible. If you haven't heard it before and you don't know what this kid has done, he's 24 years old, still very, very young, just in his life and how he got to where he is. Please stick around. We're going to be going just recently released footage of him working out, which is important because he had not one, but 2 offseason surgeries. I was pretty concerned if he'd be ready for training camp in week 1. Those doubts continue to be put to rest with his workouts that he's putting out. Looks to be in tremendous shape. But he's a fun player. 6'2", 228, as I said, 24 years old. Jersey number 51, man. And you see him everywhere. He played all 3 linebacking positions last year. Started at Sam, then went to Will, then went to Mike, then back to Will, then to Sam. He's just been all over the place, and that's kind of who he is. Trustworthy, dependable, and duct tape. He can fix it all. From Hillsborough High School, Tampa Bay, Florida, right, that area. He was a 3-star recruit coming out of high school. Now, if you just look at kind of what he did in high school, he played for Earl Garcia at Hillsborough High School, credited with 236 tackles, which is nuts, 11.2 tackles per game. His career tackles, 151 solo, 15 sacks, 2 interceptions, 5 forced fumbles, all in the high school. And again, he was credited with blocking 8 field goals. Dude, just production. Just production. That's kind of his thing. Now, he was undrafted and, didn't land at a heritage school, went to Florida Atlantic, the Owls. Linebackers and running backs kind of had a similar depreciation, perhaps. It's weird because they just don't get the draft pedigree that they used to get. Used to be one of the primary first targeted positions in the NFL, and both those have just kind of descended. Now, 2-time All-State player, 2-time All-County and All-Conference selection, team defensive MVP honors not once but twice. Dude was just bananas. Now, before we jump into his college and kind of what he was able to accomplish there, his name is pronounced Azeez, right? UH, if you look at the pronunciation, Azeez, and it's Al Shaair. Al Shaair. So like if you think about like the Hobbits, right? The Shire, Al Shaair. So Azeez Al Shaair is the way you pronounce it, which pronouncing things is not my thing. So hopefully that helps somebody out there. He was the recipient of the Wilma Rudolph Student Athlete Achievement Award, which honors any collegiate student athlete who's overcome great personal, academic, or emotional odds to achieve academic success, right? We know this. With this roster in particular, academic success is key, which he has clearly done. But it wasn't easy. He grew up with a family of 9, raised by his mom only. And, in 2012, that's better. One night, Azeez woke up to the smell of smoke and was the first one to wake up their family and get everybody outside to safety as they watched their house burn down. So saved his entire family. I mean, absolutely heartbreaking situation for a young kid that's still in high school. After that, the family had to move, in and out of motels and all those things. During this process, Azeez didn't even have a bed. He didn't have a bedroom. Slept on the floor, all while still performing academically and playing football in high school, doing all of these things. And then on top of that, because, again, if you know anything about like schools and transitioning athletes, it's difficult. You can't just change districts. So what he would have to do, he would have to ride 2 hours on the bus each day just to get to football practice, taking the public bus. A lot of times only ate once a day because his family didn't have money, and he would save his food that he would get at school sometimes for his family members back home, for his brothers and sisters. I mean, it was unbelievable. Then on top of that, as things kept going and whenever he went to college, a couple of his siblings were not doing well. Obviously, living situations weren't great, not doing well in school, things like that. So what he did then is he took a couple of his brothers and moved them back in to his campus room and took care of them, changed schools and tried to basically, I mean, this is like a single dad on steroids for his little brothers. I mean, it was just awful. The things that he had to do. And, this guy's just, he's the freaking man. And the quote that he said whenever asked about this was, quote, "All you can do is put forth the effort, and I believe I've done that," end quote. So somebody that was able to not only champion his family, not only protect his little brothers at extreme cost, sleeping on a floor. How many high school kids do you know ride 2 hours on a public bus, eat once a day, and be an all-state football player? This man, 24-year-old man, is the epitome of humanity and what is beautiful. ESPN and NFL, they like doing these like heartthrob stories and stuff. And, one day this guy's going to have probably a movie or a book made about him, and rightfully so, because part of being a fan, and this is important for me, I wear the hats and the jerseys and I buy my kids the jerseys. I don't buy the best player jerseys. That's not who I am. I buy the best men jerseys. And Azeez is exactly that. To say easy to root for, that's an understatement. This is a man that you feel like and not that I'm rooting for him, but like, man, he helps me be a better player. I've never met him, never even met Azeez, right? But what he's accomplished and overcame, it's freaking beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Now, if we look at what he did just in his time in college as a true freshman in 2015 for the Owls, I mean, he was nuts. Showed up ready to go. He was FAU's co-newcomer of the year, earned a spot on the Conference USA's all-freshman team, named Freshman All-American, played a lot of games, got a lot of work. So much so that the sophomore year, 2016, he was a preseason Conference USA All-Conference player. Preseason. That's the trajectory, all while taking care of his two brothers. I mean, freaking incredible. And just showed up, double-digit tackles almost every freaking game. He was the team's defensive MVP, named Conference USA honorable mention, finished his sophomore campaign with 93 tackles. Like, dude is a tackling machine. Junior year, 2017. Yeah, you can go through it again. First team Conference USA. Phil Stills Magazine first team all-conference. Led Conference USA in total tackles. Now, his senior year, 2018, missed some games. But it didn't change the fact of what he was able to accomplish in his 4 years in college. Graduating over 200 solo tackles in his time, 31 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks, 1 interception. Dude just played everywhere. But the injury late kind of made it to where he didn't get invited to the combine. He didn't get to go through all of his workouts and all that stuff. We don't even have metrics for him. And that caused him to kind of slide underneath the radar. And so whenever he came into the NFL, he was an undrafted free agent. And he's gone from undrafted free agent, which we'll detail his pro career here in a second. But in 2019, he was the 49ers Community Relations Rookie Player Award winner. Again, somebody that went through it and now, as a rookie, shined in the NFL because of just who he is as a person. Now, if you look, he's undrafted. And in 2019, that was his first year, the same year the 49ers made it to the Super Bowl, right? He made appearances in 15 games, and, man, he got 174 defensive snaps, kind of earned his way up to that Sam position, the third linebacker that would come in and out, right? You have either your nickel back, who was K'Wan Williams, if there's 3 wide receivers or more, right? But if they're in a base offensive formation, that's when you go 4-3. And if you don't know what that is, we're doing a full breakdown on Patreon now, just Football 101. What is base personnel? What does 12 personnel mean? What's 22 personnel? What's that mean for the defense? What are the run gaps? What are the cover 3 schemes, cover 6 schemes? So if you want to learn a little bit more about the X's and O's and simplified with visuals, what that means, head over to Patreon. We're breaking it all down. We're doing a whole series. We already got 4 parts up, I believe. About to do a whole nother offensive thing on there that I've been working on. So those will be released soon. Patreon.com/49ers Rush Podcast. podcast. Head over there if you want to check that out. Now, let's look real quick. Let's throw up the film. Here is video that was released yesterday. I'm recording this on the 20th. This was released on the 19th of Azeez training in the offseason. He had not one but 2 offseason surgeries in this past year. So he's overcome a lot, as you can tell by the video if you're, watching us on YouTube. Looks like he's ready. Now, obviously, one of his issues was a shoulder/arm. Can't tell with this, but the knee looks good. I was very hesitant about if he was going to be ready for the start of the season. Not anymore. Lower body looks good. Shoulders, we'll see. You can't really tell with this video, but it's where it is. Now, back to what he has accomplished just since he came into the NFL. So snap counts, things like that. 2019 year, 174 defensive snaps. Special team, 239. So linebackers are huge and fundamental whenever it comes to special teams. 2020 year, 305 snaps. It's growing because he kept that Sam role for much longer than 252 special team snaps. Then we get to last year. I'm going to pull that film down. When we get to last year, 730 snaps. He played 89% of snaps on the year defensively. Fred Warner missed some time. Dre Greenlaw missed a lot of time. He took over. 13 starts. I mean, this guy was awesome, and he missed time. He got 89% of all defensive snaps and missed 4 games, and only 25 special team snaps. He made himself so valuable, couldn't put him on special teams anymore. You just couldn't. Now, I love Azeez. Probably the reincarnation of Quan Alexander, who this front office loves, right? Because the explosives that he brings. That's what Azeez is explosive. Missed tackles, they're a concern. Where do the 49ers value him as he's going into his contract year? They love him and Dre Greenlaw. I think Dre Greenlaw is ahead on the depth chart. I don't think there's any, whether you're Team Greenlaw or Team Azeez, you're right. Both are good teams. There's not a right or wrong answer. Just do you value consistency more and fewer missed tackles, or do you value negative plays more? Because this dude will cause more negative plays than Dre Greenlaw. That's what he is. You want more tackles for loss, more sacks, more big hits, things like that. That's Azeez's department. You want more consistent? That's Dre Greenlaw. The good news is 49ers have them both. And no doubt in my mind, the 49ers have the deepest linebacking core in the NFL. Not even close. These 3 are unbelievable. I think Azeez could be the starting middle linebacker for at least 10 teams in the NFL. For us, he plays linebacker 3. You look at whenever, they got down in the playoffs, it was, the Mike and Will, which are out there almost all the time, was Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. And then Azeez would come out for the nickel package. If it was nickel, he'd come out of the game. If it's 4-3 base, he'd come in the game. I think that's probably going to stay, but injuries happen. He started 13 games last year. We're going to see a lot of Azeez. Now, at the end of 2022, it's going to be interesting. I don't think there's any way the 49ers will extend both Dre Greenlaw and Azeez. They're going to have to decide. We'll have to see what happens. But for this year, in this countdown, number 22, Azeez is so imperative to what this 49ers defense can do throughout the year. That depth they have at defense. And, man, if you want to try to bully the 49ers on offense, good luck. Against that defensive line and those 3 linebackers, I don't care if there's 1, 2, or 3 injuries, the 49ers now have the depth to overcome that. And this is going to be a top 5 defense. I'm telling you right now. It's going to be a top 5 defense this year, and I'm all for it. I love Azeez as a player on the 49ers, but probably more important than that, I love Azeez for the person that he is and what he's done. And if he does not come back to the 49ers, which is going to be hard to do, I want to see this guy get paid. He deserves it. I'll be pulling for this guy. I don't care what team. If this dude went to Seattle, I would root for him. That's my affinity for who he is as a human and a player. I love this guy. I hope you guys do too. And, man, again, talk about the difference, this countdown makes, which it's an unintended consequence. I didn't know it was going to be like that. The whole purpose was I want to educate, or we want to educate, not my idea. We want to educate the fans to know who they're rooting for more than just a football player and a number. And I have found, just in going through these stories, which, Josh and Anthony doing all the research and getting all this stuff prepared. Thank you. Incredible job. This entire 90 freaking player profiles. That's a lot. But man, I'm finding myself, more excited and more enamored with these people and excited to see the journeys they go on. Cause I know it's not just the 49ers, it's players change, and that's okay. But hopefully you guys have enjoyed this and you grow more respect for who these people are behind the helmet, right? Behind the jersey, because they're people. Anyway, love Azeez. Can't wait to see what he's going to do for the 49ers this year. And for us in the 49ers Rush, just going to keep counting them down.